Great. Good afternoon, all. It's nice to see a number of people joining in the chat. Today we'll be going through our lunch and learn on unstructured play, but just before we start, I'd like to go through some housekeeping. We are doing our lunch and learn on site, so hopefully we don't have any fire drill scheduled, but hopefully there won't be any interruptions throughout, but there could be a chance that people may knock on the door. So hopefully we don't get any distractions. It's great to see so many people who joined. If you can leave your name and where you're from in the chat, just to support engagement throughout, because we will be reaching out with a few questions and just hopefully to direct the training into anything areas that you might have some questions for. We'll also be doing a bit of a Q&A if we have time towards the end of our session. And on that note, we're more than ready to start. So we'll be looking into playtimes, breaks, and managing unstructured times. And we'll start off with our introduction. So we'll start off with introduction, then we'll move on to the importance of structured and unstructured play, looking at clear routines and visual schedules and how they support. Also looked at structured activities, supervision and group support, individualized support, and social skills and development. So just a bit about us. We work at Beyond Autism, where myself and Catherine work at Park House School. I'm currently the head of Park House School, and Catherine is the deputy head of Park House School. About Park House, we have, so
Park House School is a school for autistic children. We are an independent specialist school.
We would like to hear from you guys in terms of what you would like to take away from this session. So if you have any questions about unstructured play, hopefully we could tailor some of our knowledge and pass those on to you, and things that we might do in our school. And it will also be, if any of you are educators as well, working in other schools, it would be great to hear about some things that you do also. So thank you. So managing unstructured time for pupils with special education needs and disabilities often requires thoughtful, individualized approach. So this helps ensure that students have a productive and positive experience during these times. Unstructured times such as breaks and lunch and transition between activities can obviously can sometimes present a challenge for a lot of our learners, particularly those that are autistic, especially since a lot of our learners have a wide range of needs, including social, emotional, and behavioral needs. So this lunch and learn will outline some of those challenges whilst exploring different ways to support. So what is the unstructured play defined as? Unstructured play defines as free play time where students engage in activities without predetermined rules or adult supervision. So this allows them to explore their creativity and interact freely within their environment. It's important for our learners because it encourages independence and problem solving amongst the students, but also supports physical, cognitive, and social and emotional development. Also builds resilience and creativity, and also enhances their social skills, especially if we have carefully planned opportunities where they can work on teamwork, negotiation, and conflict resolution as well.
So we're just going to look at some of the benefits. So there's benefits for the child's social development. So unstructured playtimes can teach skills such as cooperation, empathy, communication. So thinking about children working together on a task or an activity, maybe as well having to request, if they're paired up at unstructured times, having to request attention from adults that are supporting. It also provides opportunities for peer bonding and friendships, just giving children a little bit of freedom to kind of explore their interests alongside other learners. There are emotional benefits, which help with children manage stress and anxiety, giving them a little, like I said, a little bit of that freedom, and a little bit of a release from structured time and learning time. It encourages self-expression and emotional regulation, and helps them to express to us and for us to better understand their likes and dislikes and their interests. It also promotes cognitive growth, so stimulating imagination and creativity, allowing for that exploration, encouraging decision-making, problem-solving and critical thinking. And then thinking about their physical health. So it promotes physical activity and coordination, and also supports the development of motor skills and physical fitness, kind of depending on the activities that they're engaging in. So just some things to consider, we're going to go into now when managing unstructured times like play. So you want to think about having clear routines and visual schedules in place. So many students with special educational needs and disabilities will benefit from structured visual schedules that can make the activity and what's about to happen predictable for them, and can allow them to understand what's coming next and what they can expect. And this can obviously help reduce anxiety and help prepare them for transitions between structured to unstructured times of the day. So we've just got some examples here on the slide that you'll see. So we've got a now, next, and then board. This can obviously be reduced as well to just a now and next board. And then we've also got an example of a larger kind of array, so a more of a bigger timetable. So we've got kind of the start of the day, so it's split up into little 15-minute slots until kind of snack and play. And you can expand that kind of, so it could be a full day timetable, it could just be a morning timetable, or it can be based session by session.
So now we're looking into creating safe spaces and the benefits in supporting learners during unstructured play. So these sensory-friendly areas can provide a quiet, calming space where students can go if they feel overwhelmed. So tactically placing these spaces across the school or environments where pupils will be engaging in unstructured play could serve some benefit for learners that may get overwhelmed in social situations, or situations where they're feeling overcrowded, or that it can be too loud for them. So these kind of give those learners those options to take a time out and regulate themselves. It's even better if they can do this independently, or if we could put structures in to support those learners doing regulating themselves independently as well. So outdoor or indoor spaces such as a sensory garden, sensory room, which you can see displayed in the PowerPoint, or calm corners are other ways of doing this. We've also seen other schools use things such as quiet spaces or quiet zones that can be tactically placed in classrooms or in libraries. Reading corners are a nice place where pupils can use to regulate themselves, because they're usually quiet spaces as well, or creating your own calm corners. So whether you have partitions in your classroom or side rooms, they can always be used creatively to create those spaces where pupils can take some time out to help regulate themselves. Similarly, we can create other spaces to kind of get pupils engaged more. So if you have a lot of learners that need a bit more motivation or need a bit more input to help regulate themselves, so they may be feeling a bit lower, we can put things in place such as little mini trampolines or exercises just to get those pupils up and ready and get them moving, particularly if they're feeling a bit low in terms of their zones. So visual support can also support with this. So in the example that you can see to the right, is there a sensory circuit to support pupil engagement. So this is something, these visuals can be used to kind of support independence for learners, but at the very first time they're probably being exposed to it is something that you might want your TLP or tutor to support them with. So we have a number of alerting activities here, such as spinning, using a trampoline, tickling and bouncing, organizing activities such as resistant bands, using a fidget toy and matching. And we also have calming activities. So it might be just taking a break on the sofa or a beanbag, taking deep breaths or taking a break. So things like that is where we can definitely use calm corners or spaces for people to take space to regulate themselves. One benefit of these is the autonomy. Where possible, it gives pupils choices that they can approach tasks and activities that can help them feel more in control and reduce feelings of frustration. If they carry these things around with them, these visuals, they can be used at any point. So if a pupil's in the playground and they have those visual supports, they can say, I need an alerting activity, or I need a calming activity, I'm feeling overwhelmed. So having those visuals with them or carrying them on their clipboard or in a bag can also support those learners in their independence of navigating unstructured play. So structured activities. So engagement options. During unstructured times, we offer structured activities such as games, art, reading, and group activities. So although the times are unstructured, having some sort of structure in place can support learners in those activities. So buddies and groups can also help. So grouping pupils with similar interests or with similar that will socially interact with each other more. This can help build on social skills, reducing the anxieties and in social settings. There are some examples of some activities on the right, and I'm just going to read through some. So these are examples of planning in unstructured times. The first one we have is sound books. So a range of sound books to be displayed in the literacy area. Pupils can explore the different environmental sound and nursery rhymes by pressing the buttons. Questions can be displayed or presented around the area where pupils can interact with, where we can ask them, what can you see? Can you find particular objects in the picture? What can you hear? So there are some cross-curricular links and learning that can happen in those areas as well. Another example is a game called What Do We Have in Stock? So toy food to be laid out on a shelf or table, separated into fruits, vegetables, and drinks. Pupils to check they have enough stock in the shop by counting the numbers of food items in each box. If you only count 3 items, means that we're low on stock. Questions that we can ask our pupils: can you add two or three more items onto the shelf or box? So here you can see they're working on math skills in the unstructured play activities. So having these activities laid out, they can be used for times where pupils don't have access to the playground, such as wet play. Having these embedded into classrooms can support pupils doing some group work or some group learning or group activities, just to encourage them to socially interact with each other, but also learn at the same time.
Okay, so another example of this are something that we use in our own setting are clubs. So having clubs scheduled during these sort of unstructured times, so things at times like snack and lunch, they can provide structured options for pupils to engage with during playtimes. And this allows for pupils to access and explore new activities as well, which they perhaps otherwise wouldn't necessarily interact with. So just kind of increasing their exposure to new activities. We can also encourage pupil voice and autonomy within these sessions. So ideally, pupils will choose the clubs or games that they would like to engage in and that kind of spark their interest, so that they're going to get the most out of those times. So in terms of those sessions as well, we would want to plan and allocate staff to encourage and support kind of the learners' engagement and participation with the activities. And this can support with making the clubs accessible to all, and so that the learners are able to engage regardless of whether they have the leisure skills to occupy their own time or the social skills to engage appropriately with peers as well. So we've just got some examples here of clubs that we've done in the past. So we've done Languages Club, Board Games Club, Song Club, Makeup Club, Pamper Club. And we run these kind of at snack and lunch times, mainly lunch times, so there's a bit more time. So obviously we have these wonderful ideas, but there are obviously skills that need to be worked on. So we need to think about those prerequisite skills so that learners can engage in such activities during unstructured play times. So these are listed here. So we've got things like play and social skills. So thinking about, are they able to engage in functional play or parallel play, so playing alongside peers, and then assessing kind of those social skills. What are their current interactions with peers and with those around them? What are those current social skills like? Thinking about their academic skills, their fine and gross motor skills, so particularly if we're thinking about kind of any physical play activities, how are they going to be able to engage in those? Their self-help and daily living skills, and kind of thinking in that around any toileting needs. Do they need support there? Sensory and physical needs as well. And then thinking about the barriers to learning. So if learners do have any behaviours that challenge or any mobility issues that might prevent them from engaging in particular things, activities during these unstructured times. and also thinking about their communication and interaction needs as well. So all of these skills inform how we plan, risk assess and timetable unstructured play times. And if we work on these skills outside of the unstructured times, this can increase the accessibility and the independence of our learners engaging in these activities. So kind of mapping this out beforehand will support with accessing such activities in the future. So just thinking about that forward planning and getting that kind of baseline, where are they at right now?
Unstructured play and unstructured times does come with its challenges, particularly when we're thinking set settings, how we navigate that and how we manage unstructured play can be challenging in itself, and different schools may take different approaches depending on the learners that you have within your school. So some of the areas that we've identified where it can be difficult, or things that can be challenges: lack of supervision. So that usually boils down to staffing. So increased risk of accidents can occur, or conflicts without adequate monitoring. Social conflicts, bullying or exclusion may arise if unstructured playtime is not properly facilitated within the school. Overcrowded, so overcrowding, having limited space or too many students can make playtime a bit chaotic or less enjoyable for some learners. And disengagement, some learners may struggle to engage with the structured guidance or activities that are set out or laid for them out in the playground or within their classroom areas. So on the next couple of slides, we'll be addressing these 4 challenges. So with the first one, which is lack of supervision. So it's important that we risk assess all learners to provide adequate support for learners engaging in unstructured play. So where we set up Park House School, all of our pupils have an individual risk assessment where we will be looking at how many staff they need with them in order to support them or care for them effectively. The majority of the time our pupils are one-to-one, but there are some times that during the school day where we can pair pupils up at lunchtimes and break time and work on those social skills or have these unstructured play activities set out for our learners. The most important factor is making sure that these pupils are safe and have adequate care assigned to them. So we look at their behaviors, we look at their behavioral history, their learning history, as well as any risks that we might have in terms of medical needs. And all of this will influence the staffing ratios that we have within those rooms. Staff roles and allocations, so some staff may have different roles. Some may be working one-to-one with learners in those groups, some might be paired up with 2 or 3 learners, or some might be leading an activity such as a club, for example. First aiders, depending on the medical needs of the learners that are engaged in unstructured play, it's quite important that we meet the needs of the learners. If someone does need a first aider with them at all times, then we will have to kind of accommodate that, particularly if a learner has medical needs such as seizures or epilepsy, then we have to kind of match our learners to the staffing ratios. Behavioral support availability. So if a pupil is what we call in the green zone, if they're relatively calm, it may mean they might not need that additional support staff. But if we do know if in crisis, when they are in crisis, they might need 2 or 3 additional staff members, and it's important that we have those additional staff members available. Doesn't necessarily mean they need to be outside or during the play activities, during unstructured play, but available should we make a call that we need extra additional staff, whether it's a radio call or something in the tannoy system, that they're available and able to come outside and support or come to the classroom and support. Lastly, handovers. Handovers are very important for continuity for our learners, ensuring that staff that are swapping over or taking on an additional learner during unstructured play are aware of their needs. So whether have they been to the toilet, is there any medical needs they need to be aware of, how the pupils are feeling, are there any behaviors or things that we should know about for the day, things that we should avoid, or things that they're particularly enjoying or motivated for that can support in unstructured play. So handovers are quite important as well between staff.
Okay, so the next challenge we're going to look at, we've put social conflicts and overcrowding together. So thinking about the solutions to this, one key one would be having a school behaviour policy in place and making sure that all staff are familiar with this, and that it's updated on a regular cycle, because obviously the needs of our learners consistently change. Also thinking about risk assessments. So Matt did mention about risk assessments for pupils, but on that, thinking as well about risk assessments for rooms or areas across the school, and kind of tying in with that, so preempting kind of what are the risks, what could happen, what do we preempt could be a challenge, could be a cause for concern here in this particular space. And thinking about that, tying in hotspots and blind spots. So particularly thinking in the playground, so are there any particular areas where learners might be out of sight? So for example, in our playground, there is a corner where learners might be able to be out of sight very briefly. So thinking about, is that a hotspot for or a blind spot for behaviours or incidents to occur and social conflicts to occur? Individual behaviour plans, so each learner will have their own individual behaviour plan, and making sure that staff are aware of these, are familiar and aware, and this ensures consistency for the learners as well, so that they know what to expect and how that situations are going to be navigated and managed. Monitoring systems in place for child-on-child incidents and to identify instances of bullying as well. So we use here SchoolPod. I'm sure that other settings have different systems as well. And this can help identify those hotspots that we talked about earlier as well. So kind of tracking the data and seeing, oh, there seems to be a lot of incidents happening in this particular area, and then deciding and putting a risk assessment and thinking about what can we put in place to mitigate that concern. And then also having a curriculum that addresses kind and unkind behaviours. So thinking about our RSE and our PSHE curriculum. So building kind of on relationship building and giving them those skills, thinking about addressing those, what's kind, what's unkind, and any nuances around social interactions as well. So that's really kind of planning and preparing and thinking ahead. Okay, so in terms of social conflicts as well, so this is just one curriculum that we use at Beyond Autism at Parkhouse School. So it's called the So Safe curriculum, and it was developed by PECS. So we utilise So Safe because it's important that we're providing opportunities for our pupils to be able to kind of speak up for themselves and advocate for themselves and tell us when something might be wrong. And this is whether that means using their words or using visuals and symbols, or using their alternative communication devices as well. So the So Safe curriculum aims to support and equip a vulnerable person with the necessary skills to communicate how they are feeling, also if they've been hurt, and how they can withdraw consent, saying no, and also understanding kind of who they can go to if they need some help and some support. So the key components of the So Safe curriculum are personal safety and boundaries. So students are taught about personal space and boundaries, and this uses visual aids, as you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen, to help them understand the difference between safe and unsafe behaviours. They then learn about who has the right to touch their body and in what situations this is appropriate as well. Identifying relationships, so they're taught about kind of the different types of relationships, so family relationships, and the difference between relationships with friends, relationships with teachers, community helpers, so all of those people, professionals, so things like doctors, anyone that they come into contact with, and kind of what's appropriate, what are the appropriate behaviours in terms of those relationships with those different groups of people as well. And this also helps them to identify and understand who they can trust and who they can approach if they need support or they need some help. It goes into feelings and emotions. So part of it is learners recognising and understanding their own feelings, and also thinking about the feelings of others and how we can go into that. And they're taught how to express their feelings in a safe and appropriate way, and also how to respond to others' emotions as well. It teaches them responding to unsafe situations as well. So it provides them with the tools to recognise when a situation is unsafe and how to react appropriately. And supports them with understanding who they can seek help from, that they can seek help, and where would they go for that. And it also teaches them to say no. And then safety and trust. So again, helping them to understand between safe, unsafe, and trusted and untrusted adults as well, and identifying safe places and safe people. So these are just some visuals as part of that curriculum. I've put a link there at the end. If you do wish to go and have a look at the SoSafe curriculum, you can get training on it. So there's a help page that all of our learners have, a help page available to them where they can request and they can show us, I need help. They can tell us what's happened. So they might point to say hurt, and they might tell us so-and-so kick, they might point, and then they will tell us where. So there's another page then that has kind of the body part. A lot of our learners are really good at kind of using this page to identify and to tell us that something might be wrong and help us to react appropriately. And this can help obviously during these unstructured times. If there are reduced numbers of adults, this helps us to kind of ensure that our children are safeguarded, and giving them the tools that if something's happened, they can come and tell us and get support. Okay, and then the final challenge we're looking at was disengagement. So thinking about the solutions here. So we want to be making the activities relevant, and we want to be making them fun and engaging for our learners. So let the pupils lead. School councils can help with things like this. So we've done it in the past where we have a group of students who represent the school council and will vote on playground activities and playground games that they want to see be bought. We should make sure that we have a variety of resources and activities available, so making sure that we've got that bulk. Again, we have the children's using pupil voice, getting them choosing, we'll have those. And then to keep it kind of fresh and new and exciting, we tend to do a rotation of resources and activity, because we do find that if we have the same activities out in the playground, this can kind of learners can start to get kind of disinterested. You know, they've seen them before, they're a bit bored. So we tend to rotate those resources. We'll keep some back and then we'll bring out some fresh ones and we'll do a rotation. And this helps keep it fun, exciting and novel. And then thinking about pairing and reinforcement as well. So this is in terms of kind of your relationship with the learners, so pairing yourself as a kind of positive person, but also with the activities. So we want to be thinking about making the activity really fun, exciting, so that the learner has a positive experience and understands that it's something they want to engage with again. And reinforcement. So when they're engaging with an activity, you know, great job, look how you did that all by yourself. Making it really fun, keeping that engagement high, and then also kind of ensures that they'll repeat the behavior again. They know, like, oh, I was really good at that activity, actually I'll do that again next time. Okay, and that takes us to the end.
So thank you for joining our session. I did say we have some time for some Q&A, but I think we might have time just for one question. But the other questions that I listed, we'll be able to get back to you after this and reach out via email. So one question we were asked around safe spaces. Is there a way to provide these safe spaces and other ideas to help manage the unstructured play without marking the child out as different? So I guess this will kind of depend on your school. If you're a SEND setting that have students, neurotypical students in, and if that's how you're trying to navigate it, you might want to navigate in different ways. So there's a whole school approach you can do around it. So everyone can have access to these places. You know, like when a pupil is feeling overwhelmed, or any pupil's feeling overwhelmed, this can be a safe space for everyone, and that will kind of fiddle out the inclusivity around it. Buddy systems, so the pupil doesn't have to go alone. There could be a group of pupils that can go together. Looking at forward planning, so if it's every time, let's say 15 minutes into a play, one of the learners starts feeling overwhelmed, maybe you can schedule that beforehand, be proactive in thinking about, okay, 10 minutes into play, let's schedule a session where these 3 learners can go ahead together into this calm space, and you can support regulation beforehand in that sense. Yeah, making it open for everyone, and opportunity to educate other learners around autism, or around the needs of all the learners across the school, so other pupils can be more aware and responsive to it, so it doesn't quite single them out as much, in hope of it not singling them out in that sense.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining our session. As Matt said, we can see there are a number of questions. We will get these answered and sent out following the session. I'm just going to move on to the next slide. So if you would like to find out more about how Beyond Autism can help you, you can get in touch, or you can scan the QR code here to book a free consultation. And this is where you can find out more about our bespoke training and our outreach services and what they offer and how they can support your setting as well. So our next Lunch and Learn session is going to be on Tuesday, the 3rd of December. That'll be at 12:30 p.m. and it's going to be on challenges associated with eating. A link to sign up will be sent in a follow-up email. Thank you very much.